The following program is an original MCM production for Community Channel 14.
Hello and welcome to Taste the Season. I'm Lisa Kingery, registered dietitian and culinary educator for the Fondy Farmers Market here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And I'm here today to talk to you about how to make sun-dried tomatoes. And so we're going to use these tomatoes right here to make the sun-dried tomatoes. And I keep putting that in quotes because really, they're not sun-dried tomatoes here in Wisconsin. If you, we don't have the climate for a sun-dried tomato. You need to have hot, sunny, dry weather, and we do not have that here in Milwaukee. So, but if you live in Arizona or, I don't know, Southern California, go ahead, try doing sun-dried tomatoes. But for us here in Milwaukee, we're gonna have to rely on technology. And this is the technology I like to rely upon. This is my food dehydrator. I bought this maybe 5 years ago. It cost $75 and it's still working like a charm. So you can, and I have a good friend who likes to do this, you can dehydrate in the oven, but you really need an oven that can go down to 140 degrees Fahrenheit. And when you do that, you can dry them on a rack, and you'll have to babysit them. You'll have to rotate them. You'll have to keep the door of the oven ajar to make sure all the moisture escapes. And it might take a lot longer than a food dehydrator. And so in the end, I don't know how efficient it's going to be to use your oven. So if you love sun-dried tomatoes like I do, I think you might want to invest in one of these guys, especially if you want to do it year after year after year, which I am planning on doing for another at least 10 years out of this lovely little food dehydrator. So that's the first thing. You need to get the right equipment. You can try it maybe the first year, see if you like those sun-dried tomatoes in the oven, and maybe the next year invest in this if you really like it. Because I use it for lots and lots of things. I don't use it just for the sun-dried tomatoes. I do fruit leathers and all kinds of things in there. So the other reason I like to dehydrate tomatoes is because, well, tomatoes are one of my favorite vegetables that come into season at the farmer's market. They come in around August and they leave us at the first frost. And if you want a vine ripened delicious tomato, that is the time to get it. And you know, when they're here, I eat them like nobody's business, but they're here and they're gone. So if I want to capture a little bit of that wonderful precious summer gift, I have to preserve it. You could do lots of things to preserve your sun-dried your tomatoes. You could can them, you could freeze them, but a lot of those other preservation methods have to do with a lot of labor and heat in the kitchen, and this is by far the easiest way to hold on to that summertime treat. So that's why during tomato season, my little dehydrator is whirling nonstop because I'm making tons and tons of sun-dried tomatoes, enough to last me a whole year to get me through to the next August when the fresh ones are available. So, food dehydrator, now we have to choose our tomato. This is called an Italian tomato, a plum tomato, a paste tomato, a Roma tomato, whatever it is. It's the egg-shaped tomato that's very meaty. It's not that big globe slicing tomato. It's got way too much juice in it. This has got a lot of meat in it, a lot of flesh in it, and that's the tomato we cook with, so it makes sense that that's the tomato that we're going to dry. So that's the next thing. You want to choose your tomato. They're going to come in all different sizes. Here's, you know, this size. This is a really big one, and they might come smaller. So we've chosen our tomato. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to want to remove the skin and remove the seeds. You don't necessarily have to, but it's going to be a much better quality product if you do. Because do you cook with tomatoes with seeds and skins on them? I don't think you do. You like them without the skins, you like them without the seeds. So that's what I do. So you're going to take your tomatoes, and I've got a couple here, and you're going to bring them over to the oven where I have got a big pot of boiling water, and I'm going to just dip them in the boiling water for 1 minute or even less, but 1 minute at least, so that I can get the skins to easily come off. And there we go. You're going to want to put about 8 at a time in there. Any more, the temperature is going to lower too much, and that's not going to give you the kind of heat you need to be able to loosen that skin and remove it later. So we're going to want to do a minute, and then you're also going to want to prepared a cold water bath, and that's just cold water with ice cubes in it, so that once the tomato is cooked, you can put it in here and stop the cooking process. You don't want to boil the tomato. You really just want to be able to loosen that skin and free it from the skin. So I've got that going, and now I need to get a slotted spoon, and I have one here, so that I can just easily lift the tomatoes out. And so I think we need a few more minutes on this. But what I like to do all throughout tomato season is just buy them in little batches. So I bought about 2 large baskets of plum tomatoes. It turned out to be about 6 pounds, 5.5, 6 pounds, and that runs for about $6. So they're way cheaper than anything you'd buy in the grocery store, and they're also coming from my favorite local farmer who grows plum tomatoes. I got a couple farmers at the farmer's market that I really like to patronize for the plum tomatoes because they grow some of the best. I'll let you find out who they are yourself. Okay, here we are, we're boiling. And now we're stopping. So I can turn this heat off because I'm just going to do these few here. I did a bunch earlier. Ooh, that's a big guy. There we go. And that. And voila, we are done. So I'm going to take this over here, and I'm going to take this here, and these were the ones, these are the ones that I did earlier today. So I did about 6 pounds of them, and I'm just going to show you how to do just one of these. So we got to wait for it to get cool. I'll use a little guy so that, and how I do it is I kind of hold it like in my hand like this, and I take the bottom and I pinch it. Some people make a cut. I think that's just one extra step that we don't need to do. And I peel it like a banana. Isn't that funny? Your hands are going to be a mess after this. Then I take my little paring knife and I go around and I core it. So, get that out. And then some people cut it in half with a paring knife. You could do that. I just kind of squeeze it and I get all the seeds to come out. And then I use my hands and there we go. And I just brush off what other excess seeds there were. And that is that. And I do that to all of them. I'm going to rinse off my hands here. And wipe them off a little bit. Okay. So now I did that to about 6 pounds of Roma tomatoes. And then the next thing I'm going to do is take my dehydrator. This is the machinery of the dehydrator. You can set the temperature to, here there's all the temperature gauges, between at about 140, 145 I set it at. That's according to my instructions. So you follow the instructions on your dehydrator. If it says 150, we'll do that. And then mine stacks like this, and so I can put as many trays as I want to, or as few as I want to. And then you can, if you have one of these, this is kind of nice. You don't really need it, but if you have one, it makes it getting them off easier. And then you just take them and you just place them on top, and that's that. It's simple. Let me do that to all these. You don't want to crowd it too much, and I just like to slice them in half, or kind of pull them in half actually, because you saw what I did. If there's a few seeds on there, no big deal, you know. I just kind of wanted the majority of them out of there, and I didn't want all that liquid in there. And they're all pretty comparable size. And do that. And I continue. So there I have the special rack. That's about all I would put on there, really. And then I'd move on, because you don't want to crowd it, because you don't want it to not dry evenly. It's going to take you about, once you've got this all set up and you've plugged it in and you're going, it's going to take you anywhere between 5 hours and 12 hours to dry them. It doesn't, It depends on how humid it is outside or how dry it is outside, how powerful your machine is, how juicy and fat your tomatoes were, etc., etc., etc. So what I usually do is I do this right in the evening. I plug it in, and in the morning I check on it and see how it goes. If it's, there we go. If it's tacky, it's not ready. That's the thing. So you just continue and continue. And then you put this on top, say I've done them all, and you plug it in. I've got safety plugs here so my kids don't electrocute themselves, but here we go. You plug it in and you set the temperature to 140 and you walk away. You come back a few hours later and you can check on it every now and again. You don't want to stop it for long periods of time because you really need to keep that temperature there, and all sorts of like molding and food safety issues can happen if you stop it. So once it's going, it's going. But then once it's done, well, ta-da, it is done, and that's what it looks like. I did one in advance, and this is what it looks like. It's leathery. Sometimes I do it when it's brittle, almost brittle, and that's a fine way to do it because I feel like the drier it is, the better it is, and it lasts longer. And my tomatoes, I keep them for up to a year. So some people aren't able to keep them that long. Some people don't like to dehydrate them all the way because they like to freeze them. To me, that's silly because my freezer space is very valuable, storage space, and since I'm sun drying them, what is really the point of putting them in the freezer? But some people do. And so then you take them and you pull them up and you put them into jars like this. And you want to find an airtight jar. And sometimes people have moths in their pantries. I don't, but some people do, and they can eat through plastic. So I don't like to use plastic. I like to use jars. Here I have a canning jar, but it doesn't have to be a canning jar. This is just a jar that I think had kimchi in it, and I'm recycling it. And there you go. I can put it in there as long as it's airtight. And I'm going to put it in here. I'm going to label it. And I'm going to put it on the shelf and use them in the order that I made them in. This right here is about 6 pounds of tomatoes. Wow, it went down really small. And so some people are saying, well, what on earth am I going to do with a sun-dried tomato? And to you, I say, there's so many things you can do with it. I like to rehydrate them. Rehydrating them is easy. You stick them in a bowl of boiling hot water. You pour boiling hot water and you wait 15 minutes to 60 minutes, and they're rehydrated, and you just use them as you would a tomato. Pizza toppings, I like to put them in pasta. Check out the curly mustard greens recipe. You'll find one with sun-dried tomatoes there. Check out the grilled pizza. You'll find sun-dried tomatoes there. You can make them into wonderful salad dressings, and then you can put them on salad all winter. Now you've got your lovely tomato instead of those yucky ones you buy in the middle of winter at the grocery store. So there's lots and lots of things. Also try sun-dried pesto, sun-dried tomato pesto. That's delicious. And the possibilities are endless. So I'm going to encourage you to sun-dry, dehydrate in Wisconsin, your tomatoes, and come down to the Fondy Farmers Market where you can find the best, freshest tasting, locally grown, seasonal vegetables in all of southeast Wisconsin. We're at 2200 West Fond du Lac Avenue, and I'm looking forward to seeing you there all the way up till the end of November, the weekend before, the Saturday before Thanksgiving we're open till, and of course we're open the Saturday before Mother's Day.
This has been an MCM Productions program.